Hey, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Well, it's 2026, the year that you're going to regain your health and possibly have bariatric surgery in order to help you lose weight. Well, frankly, it's not going to work unless you break your addiction to carbohydrates. I mean, bariatric surgery is a very powerful tool. It worked for me as far as helping me begin my weight loss journey, but it is only a tool. And the only way it really worked was when I switched over to a low carb ketogenic diet, eventually going carnivore about 5 years ago. Why has that happened? Well, what happened to me was a couple of years after I'd had the bariatric surgery, I kind of started loosening up like a lot of people do. I wasn't as diligent about only eating whole food stuff and slowly but surely allowed ultra processed food to come back into my life. And when that happened, bad things started happening. I started to gain weight. And when I realized, I looked at the scale and said, wow, over the last 6 months or so, I've gained almost 20 pounds. So I did what everybody else does. I did a calorie restrictive diet and, joined this weight loss program. It was a challenge type thing and lost the 20 pounds. Okay. You know, but that's when I discovered, thankfully, keto. Because what happens when you start eating a bunch of carbohydrates is you increase the amount of insulin and it creates insulin resistance. This is what creates metabolic syndrome. This is what really increases your blood pressure and creates all the other health problems that you see. This is what creates type 2 diabetes. And if you want to eliminate that, the easiest way to do it, frankly, is to eliminate carbohydrates because carbohydrates are not necessary in order for you to have a great life and to be healthy. Carbohydrates are optional. And some people can tolerate them, some people do not get addicted to them. But if you're overweight, odds are you probably are. I mean, there's a reason why we get fat. And part of it is our addiction to ultra processed foods. And you may think, really, is it an addiction? Well, keep in mind who owns a lot of the major ultra processed food manufacturers. You ever hear of a company called RJR Nabisco? You know who RJR is or was? That used to be one of the biggest tobacco producers in the country. And most of the tobacco producers saw the handwriting on the wall and realized that their product was about ready to get banned. So they started buying food manufacturers. And they took the same scientists and their same playbook that they had for creating highly addictive cigarettes and started applying it to food. And most ultra processed food is highly addictive stuff. It is designed to hit what they call bliss point, which is designed to make you want more of it and to keep eating it. And they keep the protein amounts really low. So as a result, you're eating all this food, but you're not getting satiety. Your body is not getting the protein that it needs in order to rebuild itself. And as a result, you just start eating more and more of it. Your body's trying to get more and more of the food. Your insulin level goes up. And at some point, you become insulin resistant. And that is the beginning of type 2 diabetes. That is why, because the insulin hormone helps keep the fat on your body, you can't lose weight. Everything metabolically starts to go downhill. And frankly, it's not up to the ultra processed food manufacturers to make you healthy. That is on you. I mean, in this fight for our health, we're all alone in this, but you've got to make that decision. And the easiest way for me to do it is just to eliminate it from my diet. I am, somebody who can get addicted to it pretty darn easily. I mean, a baked potato with sour cream and butter is a gateway drug for me in a lot of ways. I will start, with that, and pretty soon I'm doing a Stouffer's dessert. I mean, I just know me. It's easier for me to say no at the front end, even with quote unquote healthy carbohydrates, than to start down that path again. So when you're looking at trying to get healthier, when you're trying to lose weight, even if you're going to have bariatric surgery, the first step really is to overcome the carbohydrate addiction, the addiction to ultra processed foods. And it's possible. I'm not saying that it's easy. Please, in my life, I have broken addictions to smoking, alcohol, and ultra processed food. All of them were difficult, for at least a couple of weeks. It was a pain. It was not easy, but it was doable. And it is possible to do it, but it's just going to require abstinence. And you're going to just have to break that cycle. And, look, frankly, with ultra processed foods, that one was surprisingly difficult. And part of the reason for that is I had bought into the idea that you can't add salt to stuff. And when you quit eating ultra processed food, the amount of salt that you're ingesting goes down pretty dramatically. And I wasn't adding enough salt to my unprocessed foods that I was now eating. And as a result, I started to feel really terrible, thing that they often call the keto flu. And once I realized that no, you just need to add more salt to stuff, and I started using, like Redmond's real salt and stuff on my food and started eating it, salting to taste. That went away pretty quickly. It restores your electrolyte balances because what happens is when you quit eating carbohydrates, your body, carbohydrates take in a lot of fluid and particularly inflammatory fluids. This is the stuff that you lose quickly. You lose what they call water weight, but it's not just water weight. It's pure liquid inflammation, and you're getting that out of your system. But when it all comes out of your system in that first couple of weeks, you're creating some electrolyte imbalances. Particularly, you need sodium, potassium, and things like Redmond's real salt and stuff like that will really help a great deal with that transition. Sometimes just a little pinch of salt on my tongue was enough to help me break some of that addictive cycle and help me, stay away from things that I was like secretly craving. My body was going, give me some carbohydrates so that I can retain more fluid and keep that electrolyte balance going. And I just put a little salt on my tongue, and it all kind of mellowed out. Is there any real science behind that? Yeah, it's anecdotal. I mean, but it worked for me particularly well because I'd learned from other people. And in this fight for our health, man, I mean, this is one of the cool things about this particular community. There's a lot of people that have tread this path before that are more than willing to share their experience, strength, and hope and how they overcame these addictions. And these little tips, like putting a little salt on your tongue when you're having a carbohydrate crave, that helps make it possible to overcome the addiction. So this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Hey, please, this year, before you start investing in things like bariatric surgery, realize that if you do not break the addiction to carbohydrates and to ultra-processed food, you are probably destined to regain your weight like over 80% of all the other people that have had bariatric surgery. It is what it is, but it's possible to break that addiction, but it's going to take some time. It doesn't require a lot, but when you go through your cupboards and you get rid of all the ultra processed food and you only buy stuff that is single ingredient real food, it makes it easier, because you're just not, frankly, particularly during the winter, you couldn't get me out of the house to go get a package of whatever. I'm not going to go out and get a pizza. I'm not going to go out and do any of this other stuff. I'm going to eat what I've got in my own refrigerator, which is going to be meat and eggs. And that just makes life a lot simpler, easier, and makes it possible to break these addictions. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I try to put out a couple messages each week. If you like this message, please hit like and subscribe. Join this channel of other like-minded folks. I try to put out a couple messages each week. I will talk to you again soon.